You all released a couple of weeks ago the power rankings for Arizona. Second time you all have done this. Before we get into what they say, let's talk about what are the power rankings so our viewers understand what you and I are talking about.
Yeah, and so the concept was behind is that, how do you quantify or measure the relative strength of any given candidate? And so how you do that is you basically need to have a current expectation, which we know by doing regular polling on, asking what their name ID is, what voters think of them favorably or unfavorably, and to see exactly where they measure right now. So current expectations, but then we have to measure then future expectations. 15 or so questions asking like, hey, would you prefer a candidate over the age of 55 or under 55, male or female, white or Hispanic or another ethnicity? And so based on all of these demographics, and if they've had past election experience, et cetera. So based on all that, you can basically then put it together to create a power score or kind of a preseason ranking.
So our preseason ranking for politics, as it were, Katie Hobbs, Secretary of State, Democrat, #1. And when you took this, she hadn't yet declared that she was running for governor. Now everybody knew she was going to, and she's made it official now. But she was #1. So what does that say?
What's interesting, what's the unique thing that happened? Because the Arizona Secretary of State's office, let's be honest, is a very boring office unless there's an election going on. There's not going to be an election for some time. However, there currently is an audit of the election that's going on here in Arizona where they may have made some mistakes. And they've basically been putting their proverbial chin out. And Hobbs has just had the opportunity to really get on national and other media to really expand her name and recognition. And all of a sudden now she's #1. And then soon after she announced for governor. So again, I think that the audit essentially kind of primed her up to ultimately run for a governor when it should be she should not be getting probably much of any news these days in her current role.
And as we said, she's #1. One of the other big races, of course, everyone will be watching will be U.S. Senate. Mark Kelly running for a full term. And General Mick McGuire, who's the former head of the Arizona National Guard, announced this week that he's going to get in that race as a Republican.
The incumbent U.S. Senator Mark Kelly actually ranked #9 in the power rankings. Brnovich, one of the Republican challengers and current Attorney General, ranked #4, and General McGuire ranked #7. So actually, both of his challengers currently outrank him.
Let's talk about our current governor, Doug Ducey. A lot of people are expecting him to run for something. He ranked #42, dead last in the power rankings. That might surprise some people because he is the governor and was elected easily.
Correct. And it's interesting because the power rankings is one that, again, you're taking current expectations with future, and the governor's numbers are currently recovering from the large COVID spike that happened in about December, January timeframe. But what hurt him were really future expectations because demographically, he doesn't test as well. They prefer, a female over a male. They prefer someone under the age of 55, also someone that doesn't have elected experience is also a thing, which is also an interesting dynamic in the last, I'd say probably 5-6 years. But it was interesting. It flipped where being an incumbent used to be a huge advantage. And now it's kind of the year of the outsider.
So you and I can sit and talk about these power rankings for hours with our fellow friends who like these kind of things. But for the average viewer, the average voter, what should they take away from these power rankings?
I think one of the big takeaways for me in the power rankings was when you looked at the top 5 list on this most recent one, is that you had 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And it's interesting because that kind of really sums up the current state of where Arizona is. Democrats have been putting up W's on the board in this midterm election. I think is incredibly important to see where the future of the state, if they turn back to Republicans or they keep going with Democrats like they've had for the last 4 years.
All right, Mike, we'll see how this all turns out in a little more than a year. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you so much, Chris. And thanks again for the opportunity.